So I guess one of the advantages of having me here is I've been involved in the intergovernmental process, so I can kind of give you a perspective of how policy develops. And so one of the things I thought I'd do is just explain a little bit about, you know, if you're going to attend or engage in a UN summit like the Climate Summit, what are you trying to do? And there are different reasons people come, all of which have validity and importance. You know, I am going to influence the text on agriculture. I have a team of people, we're going to try and get some text into the agriculture outcome if there is going to be one. You might go to build alliances. And so another issue that I'm looking at is waste to air fuel. So I'm going to use some of my time to try and build a country-led alliance on waste to air fuel. I did the same with water and climate change in the mid-2000s. So that's a place where you build the alliance and then you start to develop a strategy of how to influence the text. When we did the Water and Climate Coalition in 2008, there was no text in the UNFCCC that dealt with water, which, considering how much water plays a critical role in the context of either supporting the production of fossil fuels or in the impacts that happen, it was crazy. Some people need to learn how these processes work. If you don't understand how they work, then it's extremely difficult to influence them. And if you're thinking you can go to the meeting in Glasgow and have an impact, I would argue personally it's very difficult, because unless you've met those negotiators before at the previous meetings and they know who you are, they will have very little headspace to learn new people or to get in touch with new people. And sometimes it's to highlight case studies, really good examples, like the one that Andrew's talking about in the context of what Scotland's doing on tourism. If you can show that to other tourism boards, that's an opportunity to, in a sense, pair up with them, but also to advance good practice. And of course, it's also to raise funds for those projects that you think are going to be implemented, because many of the foundations or the government departments that might fund things, particularly in developing countries, will be there, and they're looking for things that they can fund. If you're going into the process, unless you're accredited through a organization, you won't get into the to the blue zone, the accredited organization area. If you're going into the UK zone, then you won't have access to many of the negotiators, because they won't, mostly once it starts to hit, they won't be coming out, except if they're maybe a low-level official who's going to go and attend an event, or it's a speaker that you've brought in. What can individuals do? Well, it's extremely difficult. This is not how the system operates at the UN. Let me just pull up to this, which is further down. It organizes through stakeholder groups. And so if you are a business organization, you go to the UNFCCC website, there is a business coalition that acts as the organizing partner to engage in the negotiations. And that is the platform that gets you into to influence. If you're an environment organization, then it's the Climate Action Network. And they have been doing a huge amount of work for many, many years, and they are the place where you would do it. If you're a farmers organization, they have a seat at the table. All of these seats came out of the Rio conference in '92. The recognition you needed relevant stakeholders to sit at the table to make sure that the views of those parts or those sectors of society can be listened to. What the UNFCCC isn't is it's not focused in most cases on sectors. And so tourism doesn't exist as a sector. There's not a negotiation going on tourism. There's not negotiating going on water. There is one on agriculture, but it's taken a long while to get to that point. So it's more broader. It's a framework convention that you're dealing with, and the Paris Agreement. So what are we going to get? We're going to get a situation for national determined contributions. We've had about 114 countries who've produced their national plans. And in fact, literally today, South Africa was added to that group. And so as we understand it, a number of other countries, as we move to the beginning of the negotiations, will do that. And at the moment, we're on 3 degrees in the projection if people deliver. on what they said they would do. And then the question is whether in the next 10 years we can pull that down. Article 6 is critical in the Paris Agreement. It's about carbon markets, basically. Can we create a carbon market to trade? And how transparent is that? That's very much something difficult to explain to lots of people. But unless you've got a system that you believe in, it has transparency, and you can, in a sense, deal with offsets, then you won't be able to move enough countries. We've seen that the US has doubled its contribution to, I think, 11 billion for the climate fund. It should be 21 billion. So let's be happy that they've increased it under Biden, but under the system of what each country should pay, they're paying under what they should do, and the UK is paying more. So that's an interesting thing. I think they'll deliver on the 100 billion. They're going to push issues around clean energy. They're going to push issues around transport. But then on the other side, you have the soft areas. And in a sense, the tourism declaration is a soft area. It's outside of the formal negotiations. It's a coalition of the willing. There are a number of these coalitions of the willing that are really important. The one that was set up on climate finance for net zero, very, very important, because it will play a critical role in transforming investors, bankers, and insurance companies, and change the market so that a market supports the delivery of the SDGs and the climate process. The work on transport is to some extent outside the negotiations. There's a push from some of us for waste to air fuel, which will reduce carbon emissions by 70% on planes going, particularly from hub airports. There's work around ships moving to ammonia. There are some interesting things, and those are the things that you would push as an interesting outcome that you would like to see, but will not be in the negotiations. So it's important to be clear. I thought the Glasgow Declaration was really important in the sense it identified 4 areas that need to be looked at. We're not measuring, and we need to measure the things the same wherever we are. So as this process in tourism moves forward, it's critical that those indicators and any targets that they're supporting are the same so that you can see like for like wherever you are. It's important, as Andrea talked about, on decarbonisation. It's also important to reduce water use in the industry as well, because that will play as important in some ways to the survival of tourism. I think, it is about regenerated, but I'm more interested in the collaborative stuff. Again, this is where Andrea speaks well to it. It's about us all coming together and trying to build, in a sense, a tourism movement that is absolutely committed to trying to deliver on the 2050 net zero and on trying to get countries to reduce their national contributions to something that is better. SunX, as Benjamin mentioned, is something that we're working on, and we did 2 things. One is that we have a travel registry linked into the UNFCCC, so the tourism industry can actually start to register what they're doing. My slight problem with it, and with many of these, is there's not a proper monitoring or evaluation system that we need to have. We need to have an independent monitoring and verification system, and that applies to the finance sector, it applies to the transport sector, it applies to the tourism sector. We need to be able to have a belief that this is actually what's happening. I think that the other thing we need sector coalitions. This is a sector coalition, but we need national sector coalitions that can be, in a sense, worked out what their contribution to hitting the reduction is. At the moment, we have, in a sense, anyone can put into the UNFCCC a contribution on what they're doing. But it's at the national level where we need to work out whether those add up to anything and whether they contribute to us helping to deliver 1.5, 2 or 2.5. And so I would like to see national coalitions of business and state and local authorities working together in the 20 top emitting countries. And that, I think, would have a significant impact in a sense, changing the game. Thank you very much.